reflect reality. Without friction and air resistance, once you gave it a push, a ball on a flat surface would roll on forever. But simplification makes calculations more manageable and gives an approximation to reality. Similarly, game theory uses mathematical models that simplify human interactions and decisions as much as is possible to help understand those processes. The theory of games started with the development of the mathematical field of probability to deal with gambling games and other pastimes where the outcome was dependent on a random source, such as the throw of dice or the toss of a coin. However, in the first half of the 20th century, a handful of individuals and a quasi-governmental American institution took some of the basic mathematics of games and began to apply it to decision-making problems, ranging from economics to the best strategy to win a nuclear war. The field that was developed under the name of game theory became detached from real games. It was all about strategy. What was the best approach to win, given a set of choices available to two or more players? Games were transformed from pastimes to something deadly serious. This shift was so strong that often those who deal with game theory totally ignore what the rest of the world calls games. However, I believe that this is a mistake. Real games still form part of the continuum. It is just that many familiar games are not interesting from a game theory perspective, either because they are too dependent on random chance, with no strategy, or because they are too complex for strategies to be developed. It's worth spending a moment on the strategy word here, as it is often misused, and game theory has its own specialist meaning for the term. A strategy is a plan to achieve a goal. However, as J.D. Williams pointed out in his light-hearted 1960s book The Complete Strategist, in game theory, a strategy designates any complete plan. In general usage, a strategy is usually a best effort to achieve something. But in game theory, a strategy is any complete plan for playing the game, no matter how good or bad. In chess, for example, your strategy could be to always play the piece closest to the bottom left-hand corner of the board that is available to move. Such a strategy would pretty much guarantee losing, but it would nevertheless be a strategy in game theory terms. Much early game theory was developed to deal with situations where two players went head-to-head in an aggressive win-or-lose situation. This was the circumstance, for example, facing American military strategists when applying game theory to nuclear warfare, and whether it was better to be reactive or preemptive when it came to nuclear strikes. Arguably more a lose-lose scenario than win or lose. However, the most valuable impact of game theory in recent years has been in the design of specialist mechanisms to deal with spectrum auctions. Selling a spectrum. The word spectrum suggests that these auctions are something to do with selling off an array of colours, but here a different part of the electromagnetic spectrum is under consideration. Not visible light, but the segment of radio frequencies available for, usually, mobile phones and Wi-Fi. Historically, radio bandwidth was primarily used for broadcast radio and TV, with a relatively small number of transmitters sending signals to many receivers. Because of overlaps between different transmitters and applications, and because of the crude technology originally used, wide swathes of the radio bandwidth were allocated to broadcasters. The exact definition of radio is a loose one. The electromagnetic spectrum is divided up by frequency or wavelength. Wavelength is the distance between equivalent points in the repeating cycles along the progress of a wave. Frequency is the number of such complete cycles of the wave that take place in a second. Frequencies on the entire electromagnetic